Hey Lisa, so I'm just going to answer your question in Q&A. Your question was, how difficult was it to get a Grab lane at Jakarta Airport? How does Grab handle legal challenges with governments and institutions? Okay, so it's not easy. So a lot of these things, and I think you're from Property Guru, which is a real estate site, right? So it's not easy. It's something that Grab had to do over time, but the ability to have a dedicated fleet of drivers that was only going to be there for the airport, that helped ease the process. So we got a fleet of drivers that was exclusive for the airport. We tied up with the airport authorities at that point of time and said, hey, only these drivers can do rides at the Jakarta airport at that point of time. And that sort of helped with the legal challenges. There's a question from Aditya. How do you solve for ETA estimation when it comes to concierge model of Grab food? Okay. Hey, Aditya. So that is a tricky situation normally. So the question here is, when somebody, when a driver goes in and is asking the restaurant to prepare the food, it's definitely going to lead to more time than it normally does. But over a period of time, as you gather data about it, you normally get to know, on average, how much time would it take for that restaurant to prepare food after a driver reaches there. You get to estimate how much time it would take a driver to get to the restaurant, and you can estimate, how much time it takes for them to come back. So it's that factor of how much time it takes the restaurant to prepare after the driver reaches, and how much time the driver stands in a queue at the restaurant, which is not estimated very well first. So you put in some uh, assumptions, but after that, it turns out that you are able to estimate it as you get more data. Are there any more questions? Any questions on things we spoke about on Grab Chat, Grab Now, Grab Food, anything else about Grab in general? All right. So as the next step to this, I'm going to be sharing a recording of this with all of you. I'm going to be sharing a recording of the session. If there are any more questions, just send them across to me. There's one from Michelle. So if you have any more questions, even after the session, just send them across to me. I'm going to answer them. And I know there were a lot of people who dropped off when we got disconnected. I think there were 20 people who dropped off. So I'm going to reach out to them after this as well and see, if I can have a makeup session for them. And if any of your friends want to attend that as well, I'll be happy to do that. The next question is from Michelle. What's the biggest challenge on building a uniform product for Southeast Asia? I think people from different countries may have different habits. Lindsay, seems like these are really big features that solve significant customer pain points. How do you continue to innovate? Okay, so Michelle, I'll first answer your question. So the good part about this is that when Grab started out, Grab knew the realities very well. So in our market, it is not an option to give multiple languages. It is not an option to, be configurable. So even, like 5 years, 6 years ago, the foundations were already laid. All systems were made to be configurable at a country level, at a city level. So that helped. And then as we grew, it sort of helped us execute it, the other side is actually the research part of it, right? So that is where there's a prioritization process where we get certain inputs from business teams in every country. We have our own central research team that does customer research, and at the end of the day, we do prioritize it based on business metrics. So if there's something, for example, Indonesia is a very big market, and if there's something that really could help Indonesia, but others are not really looking forward to it, we may still prioritize it. Um, okay, the next question is by Lindsay. How do you continue to come up with big innovative solutions? Okay. So, Lindsay, some of these things actually lead to lead to newer findings that leads to new customers and also leads to new problems. So I'll give you an example. When I talk about solving for profitability and solving for conversion both, it sounds like it's a big feature, but actually it's something that is a part of a continuous optimization over the course of a year, right? And every time you launch one of these, you actually come up with new findings. You realize, what, your hypothesis was wrong, and you sort of continue to experiment. But at this point, different parts of the company are at different stages of maturity, and the kind of innovations that happen now are really driven more towards objectives like profitability, objectives like long-term retention. A lot of initiatives that I spoke to you about, like Grab Chat and Grab Now, which happened in more early stages of Grab, like maybe 3 years ago, they were really very growth-centered and very centered towards solving an immediate problem. Now the problems that we look at are, how do we get people to use us more? How do we get them to come 4 to 5 times? How do we get them to order food more number of times? How do we get them to use other services on the app, like hotels? If you're traveling in a car, how do we sell you food when you're on the way home so you can order dinner? So innovations are now sort of coming up in that aspect. How do you get people to spend more, rather than very basic building blocks, which in the early stages we were able to fix? All right. Are there any more questions? All right, people, if there are no more questions, I think you have been a pretty, engaged participant list. Thanks for answering on the polls. And I'm going to send you all across a video. I am going to, if some of you joined only midway, I'm going to be hosting another session of this, and I'm going to be posting a recorded video so that you're able to access all of it. And if you have any other questions, just reach out to me on LinkedIn or on my email, and I'll be happy to chat. And for those of you in Singapore, let's just grab a coffee or a beer sometime. I'll see if we can add all of you to a group and take our conversations forward. All right. Thanks, everybody. I'll be logging off now. Then take care. Wash your hands. Use a sanitizer. Stay safe. Bye-bye. Thanks, Hang. Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, Quek. Thanks, Lindsay. Stay safe, everybody. All right. Bye-bye.